Welcome to your deep dive. Today we're tackling a giant of the beautiful game, Manchester City Football Club. You've given us a mountain of material, and trust me, their story is anything but straightforward.
You're not kidding. I mean, this is a club that went from battling social ills in a church courtyard to lifting the Champions League trophy. Talk about a transformation.
Okay, let's rewind to those early days. 1880s Manchester St. Bernks. Not exactly the glamour of the Premier League, right? What's the story behind their unusual start?
Well, imagine a city grappling with poverty, unemployment, you name it. Churchwarden Anna Connell saw an opportunity sport as a way to unite and uplift the community. And so St. Mark's, West Gorton, was born, a football team with a social conscience.
A far cry from the multi-million-pound transfers we see today. But even back then, they had ambition, right? They went through a few name changes, finally becoming Manchester City in 1894.
Exactly. And their early decades were a mix of growing pains and remarkable achievements. They were the first Manchester club to lift the FA Cup, that was back in 1904.
Wow, I bet that ruffled some feathers across town. But their history isn't all sunshine and trophies, is it? Tell me about the Billy Meredith scandal. It sounds juicy.
Now, this was a big one. Meredith was a superstar player, and in 1906, he got caught up in illegal payment allegations. It caused a huge rift, with several players, including Meredith, eventually heading to their rivals, Manchester United.
Talk about adding fuel to the fire of a rivalry. It's amazing how these early events shaped the dynamics we see even today. But then, of course, the world changed with the First World War. How did that impact the club?
Football became a symbol of hope and resilience during those difficult times. Many players served on the front lines, and the game provided a much-needed distraction for those at home.
A reminder that even amidst global upheaval, the love for the beautiful game perseveres. And after the war, they celebrated another FA Cup win in 1934. But it was a bittersweet victory, wasn't it?
Tragically, just weeks before the final, the Bloomfield Road disaster occurred. 33 fans lost their lives in a crush at the stadium. Imagine the weight of that tragedy overshadowing what should have been a joyous occasion.
It's a stark reminder of the deep connection between a club and its supporters, and the tragedies that have unfolded throughout football history. Moving on to the late 1930s, City achieved something truly unique. They won the First Division title in 1937, but then
They did the unthinkable. The following season, they were relegated. To this day, they hold the unusual distinction of being the only English top-flight champions to be immediately relegated after winning the title.
what a bizarre turn of events. It seems like City's history is full of these dramatic swings in fortune. Then, of course, another world war turned the world upside down. How did the club navigate the post-war era?
Well, like many clubs, rebuilding was the name of the game, but what's interesting is they implemented this innovative tactical approach called the Revie plan.
Okay, let's dive into that. What made it so revolutionary for its time?
It was all about fluid, attacking football, emphasizing ball control and quick passing. Now, this might sound commonplace today, but back then it was revolutionary. Think of it as a precursor to the total football philosophy that would later take the sport by storm.
They were ahead of their time. So this Revie plan, did it translate into success on the pitch?
Absolutely. It culminated in their 1956 FA Cup victory. But this wasn't just any win. It involved a truly legendary performance by goalkeeper Bert Trautmann.
Okay, I have to hear this. What makes this performance so legendary?
Picture this. It's the FA Cup final, and Trautmann, a former German prisoner of war, helps City secure a 3-1 lead. But late in the game, he collides with an opposing player, injuring his neck. Now remember, this is long before substitutes were allowed.
No way. What did he do?
He played on. Despite being in visible pain, he made crucial saves in the final minutes, securing the victory for City. It turned out he'd been playing with a broken neck.
You're kidding. That's insane. Talk about commitment to the game. You'd think a victory like that would propel them forward, but the sources mentioned a bit of a rough patch after that.
Yeah, the late 50s and early 60s were inconsistent. They struggled to find that same winning formula. They even faced relegation again in 1963. It's like the club was on a constant seesaw of success and struggle.
Which makes their resurgence in the mid-60s all the more remarkable. The sources called it a golden age under the leadership of Mercer and Allison. What made their partnership so special?
Mercer and Allison were a managerial dream team. They had this incredible synergy. Mercer was the tactical genius, while Allison brought this infectious enthusiasm and a knack for spotting talent.
Yeah, boy, did they find some talent. This was the era of Colin Bell, Francis Lee, and Mike Summerby. This trio alone is the stuff of City legend. What was it like watching them play?
Electric. They had this almost telepathic understanding on the pitch. Bell, the engine in midfield, Lee with his mazy dribbling and clinical finishing, and Summerby, the flying winger delivering pinpoint crosses. They were a force of nature.
And their trophy haul speaks for itself. From 1966 to 1970, they won the Second Division, the First Division, the FA Cup, the League Cup, and even the European Cup Winners' Cup.
They conquered England and then set their sights on Europe. It was a period of unparalleled success for the club, and it solidified their place as a major force in English football.
It's hard to imagine such a dominant team fading. But as we've seen, City's history is full of ups and downs. What led to their eventual decline?
Well, as with all great teams, time eventually caught up with them. The sale of Dennis Law to Manchester United in 1973 was a major turning point.
Wow, talk about twisting the knife. Their star player going to their biggest rivals. It must have been a bitter pill to swallow for City fans.
It marked the beginning of a difficult period. They struggled to replace the core of that legendary team, and the trophies dried up. They even faced relegation again in 1983.
It's almost hard to believe that just a decade after conquering Europe, they found themselves battling relegation again.
It's a stark reminder that success in football is often fleeting. The late 70s and 80s saw City enter what some fans call the wilderness years.
And these wilderness years lasted for quite a while, didn't they? Tell me about their journey through the 80s and 90s.
It was a turbulent time. They went through a string of managers, each trying to recapture the glory days, but without much success. They faced financial difficulties, and in 1998 they experienced the unthinkable relegation to the third tier of English football.
Wow, from European champions to the third tier in just over 2 decades? That's a tough pill to swallow for any club. But even in their darkest hour, there was a glimmer of hope, wasn't there? Tell me about their dramatic return to the Premier League under Joe Royle.
Joe Royle took charge in 1998, and he inherited a club in disarray. But he managed to instill a fighting spirit in the team. Their journey back to the top flight culminated in that iconic 1999 playoff final against Gillingham.
Okay, so set the scene for me. What made this match so unforgettable?
They were on the brink of defeat, trailing 2-0 with minutes to go. Then, in a stunning turn of events, they scored 2 goals in stoppage time to level the score.
No way. 2 goals in stoppage time. Talk about a roller coaster of emotions.
It was unbelievable. And as if that wasn't dramatic enough, they went on to win the game on penalties, securing their return to the Premier League in the most dramatic fashion possible.
That must have been an incredible moment for City fans. It's a testament to the club's never-say-die spirit, even when their backs were against the wall. But little did they know, even bigger changes were on the horizon.
The year 2008 changed everything. That's when Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan, a member of the Abu Dhabi royal family, bought the club.
And with that purchase, the landscape of Manchester City and perhaps even the Premier League was changed forever.
It was a seismic shift. Suddenly, City went from fighting financial woes to having seemingly limitless resources.
The beginning of the money talks era for City, right? But it wasn't just about splashing cash. What did this new ownership mean for the club's direction?
They had a clear vision to make Manchester City a global powerhouse, and they weren't afraid to spend big to attract top talent. Players like Robinho, Carlos Tevez, Yaya Touré, these were statement signings.
They were making a statement, all right. But did this influx of stars instantly translate to success on the pitch?
It wasn't an overnight transformation. There were some growing pains, some tactical adjustments, but you could feel the momentum building. And in 2011, they ended their 35-year wait for a major trophy by winning the FA Cup.
I bet that was a sweet victory for City fans, a sign of even bigger things to come.
Exactly. And the following year, they etched their name into Premier League history. The 2012 title race, it's the stuff of legends.
Okay, paint the picture for me. Why is this particular title race so memorable?
Imagine this. It's the final day of the season. City and Manchester United are neck and neck. City needs to win their match against Queen's Park Rangers to secure the title.
No pressure then. So what happened?
They were losing 2-1 going into stoppage time. The tension was unbearable. Then, in the most dramatic fashion imaginable, Edin Dzeko equalized in the 92nd minute.
Oh my goodness, I can only imagine the scenes at the Etihad.
It was pure pandemonium, but the drama wasn't over. 2 minutes later, Sergio Aguero, who else receives a pass from Balotelli, weaves through defenders and fires a shot into the back of the net.
Chills. They actually did it. They won the Premier League in the most dramatic fashion possible.
It's one of the most iconic moments in Premier League history, etched in the memories of every City fan.
And that victory marked the beginning of a period of dominance for City, right?
Absolutely. They'd tasted success, and they were hungry for more. More Premier League titles followed in 2014, 2018, 2019. But there was one trophy that still eluded them, the Champions League.
It seemed like the final piece of the puzzle for them to be considered true giants of European football.
And they came agonizingly close in 2021, reaching the final against Chelsea. But it wasn't their night. They lost 1-0.
A bitter pill to swallow, but you sensed it was only a matter of time before they conquered Europe.
And conquer they did. In 2023, they faced Inter Milan in the Champions League final. It was a tense match, but they emerged victorious, finally lifting that coveted trophy.
A historic moment for the club. But it gets even better, right? They didn't just win the Champions League that year.
You're right. They achieved what many thought was impossible. They won the treble. The Premier League, the FA Cup, and the Champions League all in one season.
An accomplishment that mirrored their rivals Manchester United back in 1999. Talk about a power shift in Manchester. From those humble beginnings as a church team to European champions, Manchester City's journey has been one of incredible highs and lows, dramatic transformations, and a relentless pursuit of greatness. And you know what's amazing? It makes you wonder, what will they achieve next?
It's really quite something. Their story shows that while money might provide the platform, it's the unwavering spirit, the tactical brilliance, and the unforgettable moments of magic that truly make a club legendary. And I think that's something all football fans can appreciate.
You started this deep dive with a stack of sources, and now you've got the inside track on one of the biggest names in football. From battling social ills to battling for trophies, their story is a testament to the enduring power of the beautiful game. And who knows what triumphs and heartbreaks await them in the seasons to come. One thing's for sure, Manchester City's journey is far from over.